हेलो एवरीवन, गुड मॉर्निंग, वेलकम टू माय चैनल। आज हम करेंगे जो हमने पीछे छोड़ा था, चैप्टर नंबर 2, है ना। बामा मेंशंस अनटचेबिलिटी फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम इन द ओपनिंग सेंटेंस ऑफ द सेकंड चैप्टर। ठीक है। शी सेज शी सॉ it in practice and was humiliated by it when she was a young child walking back from school. In her usual fashion, she describes her walks back from school, how she used to dawdle and watch the goings on around her. She gives us a view of what all used to happen in the market those days. But one day, when she her street street, जब वो अपनी स्ट्रीट में आई, she saw that a threshing floor had been set up and the knicker was overseeing the work. She saw with amusement an elder from her community walking through towards the knicker, carrying a small packet of vadai or green banana bhaji, holding out the packet by its string without touching it. The child Bama wanted to laugh at such an antic by an elder, but her elder brother explained to her about untouchability. It is then that she burst out against caste practice and oppression. She recalls that both her grandmothers worked as servants for Naikar families and recounts their routine humiliations. They worked hard for the Naikars from dawn till dusk with almost no reward. Even the food they got was leftover food from the Naikar home, food which was given almost as a favor. It is her elder brother, who was already studying at the university, who educated her about caste practices and exhorted her to study, demonstrating through his own life that education broke down caste barriers and practices. Bama shows her Bama shows how prejudices and caste practices are so much a part of the system that lower caste children are discriminated against almost naturally, even in institutions like the schools and the church. The school and the church sided with the upper castes in their very physical locations in the Nadar street. Harijan children, Bama says, were treated as contemptible, but used as cheap labor. She gives us an anecdote, means kahani, about when she was labeled a thief unjustly because a coconut had fallen when they were playing. The headmaster's caste as a chaliyar becomes important here, since the chaliyars and the parayars, जो कि बामा की community थी, were locked in a battle at the time over a cemetery. When the priest to whom she goes for justice tells her that she must be a thief because she is a pariah, she says things were no better in the high school she attended in the neighboring town. The lower caste children were discriminated against and humiliated in very many ways. She found even the governmental policy of identifying and helping Harijan children as humiliating. The only time she found some pride in it was when she was marked out as the best Harijan student in the district. Even in college, she felt the pricks, especially when a lecturer asked all scheduled caste students to stand and identify themselves, since the government wanted them to have special tuition. She refused this for an anger for in she refused this offer in anger, since she felt that this only continued to identify her by caste. She found that she gained the respect she found that she gained the respect of her peers and her teachers by studying well. Even when she finished her B.Ed and joined a convent school to teach, she found that the nuns disdained her, as well as the Dalit students who made the majority in the school. Neglect करती थी, मतलब जो nuns होती थी ना दूसरी. After 5 years of teaching, Bama was filled with a desire to become a nun of herself in order to help Dalit children. So she joined an order against the wishes of her family and friends, who warned her that the caste discrimination was rampant within the church. Church में बहुत ज़्यादा है, मतलब ये caste system. She Soon enough she realized that there was a disjunction between her and the order, and that the nuns looked down on Tamilians to begin with, and that Tamil Pariyara were the lowest of the low. तो बहुत ज़्यादा डिस्क्रिमिनेशन होता था तमिलियंस के साथ, वो तो बहुत लो कास्ट की थी. The very first convent that she she was went to after acceptance into the order was a shock. Catering to the rich, it had Dalits doing all the manual jobs and being treated as less than human. Bama was full of anguish because she couldn't bring herself to tell the other nuns that she too belonged to a lower caste. When she heard them speak insultingly about lower castes, Bama ends the chapter on a poignant, touching and anguished, वो गुस्से से भरा हुआ note about the status of Dalits and call for action to crush all these institutions that use caste to bully us into submission and bring about a just society where all are equal. Friends, we are on chapter number 3 now. This chapter delineates, बताता है, the conflict between parayars जो उनकी caste है ना, and Chaliyars over the cemetery that parayars had traditionally used in Bama's village. Cemetery के ऊपर उनका dispute था ना, दो caste का, Chaliyars and parayars का. This cemetery was next to Chaliyar community school. The upper caste Christians had a different cemetery. The Chaliyars wanted the cemetery so that it could become a playground for their children. Hence, there were frequent skirmishes, मतलब छोटी छोटी लड़ाइयाँ होती थी between the two communities. Bama recounts an incident that blew into a major clash and brought forth unjust police action against the Dalits. When she was 11 years old, she details police brutality and the resilience of the women of her community. मतलब कितने brutal थे वो पुलिस वाले. She remembers how even the church sided against them, with the priest even refusing to loan some money for the court hearings. She ends the chapter by commenting that there are often such frequent clashes between parlors and parayars. ठीक है, parlors भी एक community थी, low caste, उनके बीच में भी झगड़े होते रहते थे. This leads to killings and court cases. Bama's lament is that the upper caste men are having the last laugh here. तो उन्हीं की जीत होती थी. Instead of uniting together in a village of many castes, if they keep challenging each other to fight, what will happen to all these men in the end? She asked. वो मतलब अपने आप से क्वेश्चन करती हैं, वो पूछती हैं क्वेश्चन ये वाला. This chapter is in your course. It is about work, about the hard labor. Chapter number 4 में है हम, है ना. तो ये बता रहे हैं, this chapter is in your course. It is about work, about the hard labor that constitutes the life of lower castes, and about the exploitation and the little reward they get. The chapter begins with a simple, straightforward statement, है ना. क्या statement है? From the time that I was a small child, I saw people working hard. I grew up amongst such people. This is the beginning of an astute critique of caste practices and their relationship to labor and ownership of resources in our country. She details various kinds of labor, जैसे agriculture, construction, working with leaves, or at the brick kiln, and foraging for firewood, that constituted the life of her community in her village. The lands are owned by Naikars and the pariars are bonded laborers. She says that in her village only the palars and pariars had to work so hard in order to be able to eat and survive. Only the families of teachers lived with any degree of discomfort. ओके, अब टीचर्स की फैमिली जो थी वही थोड़ा सा कंफर्ट से रहती थी. Bama's grandmother was a true and proper servant. She worked hard from dawn to dusk, 6 days a week, and even 7 when called for. All this for a little gruel. Gruel means niwala. Even Bama, as a school girl, had to do manual मतलब हाथ से करने वाला काम, labor, to help out. She describes her experiences of harvesting the groundnut crops, hard work for a maximum of 5 rupees a day. Shelling the groundnuts, मतलब दाना निकालना, was equally hard work and paid about the same amount. She would also collect thorny twigs or go with other children to collect firewood in the jungle after bribing the forest guard. This was again very hard work for every little money or for a little fuel. Bama recollects that even her mother used to collect firewood, and that in one instance she brought home a bundle of firewood and began vomiting vast gobs of blood. मतलब उसको खून की उल्टियाँ शुरू हो गई मम्मी को. Bama comments that it was only by toiling like this, ज़्यादा काम करने से हुआ था, without taking any account of their bodies as human flesh and blood, that people of my community could even survive. Children began to work as soon as they were 10 or 12. The girl children would look after the home in the absence of their mother, who had to go out to work. Boys would graze sheep and cattle and then go off to work when they were older. Bama says that they would very often be paid in kind of their work, and then the other shopkeepers would cheat them. So their hard work was exploited half the time by the Naikar employers. The rest of the time they were swindled by these tradesmen. मतलब ये लोग भी उनसे धोखाधड़ी करते थे, है ना. So used was Bama to this hard work that she enjoyed it. Such hard work should have enabled the community to prosper, but exploitation has kept them in exactly the same place for centuries. The discrimination extended further to women who were paid even less. She says that this is a community that enjoyed life and was born to work, but work was their lot. It is even worse now. No longer do tiny tots do small chores at home, leave alone go to school. They go off to work in a matchbox factory where they work from dawn till dusk. This is the life of labor that the Dalits were born into. Now friends, we are coming on chapter number 5. I hope we'll finish it. Okay, yeah, it is very small, so we'll finish it. Chapter number 5. This chapter deals with the recreation and pastimes available to Dalits in Bama's village. She tells us of the pretense games they used to play as young children and about dolls they used to make. The world of reality dictates the contour of their pretense games. Pretend करते हैं ना कि जैसे बच्चे वो खेलते नहीं, ऑफिस घर घर. Okay. For example, when they played at being married, the husband would come home drunk and beat the wife, and the police would arrive and beat him up. Or when they played at working, some boys would become Naikars and humiliate the rest. Only boys could go to the cinema, and when they grew up, girls could not go out to play any longer. He then describes the pastimes of the adult men. From silambam to cards to kabaddi. सिलाम्बम पता नहीं क्या होता होगा, मतलब कार्ड्स खेलते थे, कबड्डी खेलते थे. She speaks of how they would celebrate festivals by singing and dancing and taking out processions. Hunting was rewarding pastime as well. In the next section of the chapter, Bama tells us how the festivals are celebrated differently now. She begins with the disjunction between the church and the community. and also how the community is now more interested in the cinema than prayers at the church. मतलब वो सिनेमा ज़्यादा जाना पसंद करती थी बशर्ते कि वो चर्च जाएं. At New Year, the Dalits had to give presents to the priests and the Mother Superior, and they would buy them expensive fruits that they had never tasted themselves, all for reviving the sign of the cross on their forehead. She notes that people no longer remembered the hymns, and an incident involving an infant and a nun makes her realize afresh how little of Christ's love and forbearance there is in the church. People complain that earlier priest would give them sweets and calendars in return, but now the priest wants them to buy the calendar. Even the Mother Superior acts superior, and her gifts of small drawstring cloth bags only arouses ill feeling among the community. And finally, instead of going to the evening mass, the evening mass means prayer, the people are keener to see the movies that have been promised to them. No longer do the youth put up plays. It is cinema and toddy or a track that provides the pastime now. ओके, मतलब वो सिनेमा देखना ज़्यादा पसंद करते थे. टॉडी आई थिंक ड्रिंक रहता होगा. चलो, in the next video I'll start with the chapter number 6. Only 3 chapters are left now. So thank you so much. Please subscribe my channel.